So this morning I went ahead and opened the curtains, even though it's like almost 8 o'clock, but it's pitch black outside. So I'm fishbowling this. Just make everything like this is the fishbowl. And, but I'm not kidding. Like, look at that. That is pitch black out there. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. And it will stay dark all day. Not as dark as this. This will take a long time to, I can think of the word, but I can't, I can see it. But it's like in art, when you go through the different shades from black down to gray and the different shades and stuff that movement or whatever. So it will kind of do that, Sometimes it will have that weird abrupt thing where all of a sudden it's like they put the illumination disc over us for a minute. But I can look around nature. Yesterday when I was driving into town or whatever, I think it was yesterday, and I was just, the illumination disc was out and it's burning your eyeballs, and it was not effective. But somehow, clouds way over here, and clouds way over there. Like, oh, how are they getting this white light behind them? Like, it makes no sense. But then when I was driving, I just started noticing that the trees, how they just all look like it's winter, and it went from a beautiful fall into just this, it just feels so dead. It looks so dead. Everything just looks so dead, and it looks so helpless. And I was thinking about nature and, what it's going through too. It's not just what we're going through. Nature's going through a lot too. Just with my plants, it's like a hospital. Like, they're really, really having a hard time. It's because there's no, the dogs, everybody's health is suffering. It's also on purpose, and it's all just to keep control over this created illusion of a world. It's so weird if we could really, start understanding more about how consciousness works and how it's able to trap this other consciousness, and how it's, it's so trippy. Like, the way I understand things in my head and the way I'm shown things and can understand it is so much more complex. And so many people, I start talking and people are just like, what are you talking about? It's like, I used to feel bad about that. Like, I had to try and fit in. But now it's like, I see life different than other people. Very different. This morning, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I swear to God, it's totally in cycles where it is 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just like, wah, and they're talking, wah, 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 and it's just loud. Like, there will be something. And this morning was farfegnugen. I was like, farfegnugen? What the fuck? I hadn't heard that in so long. That's what it used to be. I had a Volkswagen, was my first car. And farfegnugen was the slogan that they started using for Volkswagen. I didn't know why or what it meant or whatever, but it popped into my head this morning, super loud. It was farfegnugen, farfegnugen, farfegnugen. It just kept going. I was like, what the fuck is far? So this morning I got up and I looked up the meaning. Like, what does farfegnugen mean? Like, what are you guys trying to tell me? Like, and it said driving pleasure. It said that it was the slogan for the Volkswagen back in the 70s for, it was driving pleasure. And I was like, oh, that's funny. But I think I'm going to, from this point on, my vibrator will no longer be called a vibrator. For now, it's going to be called a farfegnugen, because it just fits. So, yeah, I don't know what else I'm supposed to get from that word at this point. But a lot of times they'll show you stuff and they'll give you stuff, and you'll see it. It will spread out throughout the day. That's why you got to be open to signs and, when you're in contact with the other side, which I think I spend too much contact with the other side, not enough contact in the present. But the yesterday I did look at on Twitter at I can see some things, but it has to be like, it has to come up in like Google or something, and then I can click on a link to a Twitter thing, then I can see it. I can't just go into Twitter and see, unless I do that, and then I can see that person's post or whatever. And there was a Jim Carrey one, and he said some stuff, and I was like, oh, I totally get what he's saying. I just get it. And but I decided, well, I'm gonna go in and see what are the people saying, like the people commenting, because it was like 600. And I have noticed on, people who are big stars and stuff like that, that people have been pulling back, like, I'm not gonna idolize anymore. I'm not going to, like, starting to reprioritize, like. But when I went in and read the comment, the people who are still in that mindset, because all these comments, I love you, dude, I love you, yeah, far out, man, and it just is empty hero worship. It's like he's trying to talk about something deep, and it's like you drop the bait, and then it's like, you see, catch it. And I saw one comment. I read a lot of the comments. One comment was, please explain. Like, it was way too over their head. And that's how I feel all the time. Like, I'm always talking to people that they don't understand, but I can't go back. It's like, once you are awake to a certain point, you can't. It's like you're there. You can't go back. I can't even understand back anymore. It is the same thing as like how I lost my old self now. I don't remember her as well. I don't know how to interact like that anymore, like how we used to do it. Once you're past it, you can't do it anymore, and it's frustrating when everybody around you is still doing it. But anyway, so in the comments, and all these people are just so still in that kind of shallow, just idle. Which I thought, there's a nice part of that is very much about, just willing to just give you love. I just love you just because you make me feel good, or whatever it is, whatever it is that, gets people to love somebody that they don't know. And, so it has like a nice kind of like creation of love. But then there's also, because everything has more than one side, there's also that shallow, my eyes itchy. I've got such bad allergies right now. My eyes itching, they're burning. I feel like my body is just like kind of irritated with me because of the crocheting, and so it's just like just cutting my eyes off. Like suddenly I just can't see. My hands just cramp, and and another like, okay, quit obsessing. And smoking, so my hands hurt. I gotta smoke more, then my lungs hurt. So it's like, oh my god. Now I keep telling it, it's okay, I'm almost done, guys. I'm almost done. We'll take a break once I finish everybody's present. But I do love giving so much too. It just makes you feel so good. And see, that's the other side of that is it's a selfish kind of thing, to give something so I can feel good. Because essentially that is what we do. My daughter asked me the other day, she said, what would you do differently as a mom, like if you could go back? And I said, well, every answer would come back to be something selfish about me, because it would be so that I could feel better. I wish I could have done better for this daughter so that she wouldn't have any struggles, so I would not feel like I failed. You see how that works? So everything always comes back to self. I think it's just how much awareness and recognition we give that, and how much we try and play the game of trying to please others, instead of being more present with ourselves. And when I was talking about all the people still with the kind of just that empty kind of hero worship thing, and so then I was thinking, it'd be kind of weird too, is if that was all that surrounded you, and if you were like more of a deep thinker, and it was just so much shallow, it was like everybody's in the shallow end, just, playing around, and then nobody wants to go out and explore the deep end. It's like, oh my gosh, that it would be kind of a lonely kind of existence, really. Is that if all anybody could ever talk to you was about like, oh, I love you, dude. Yeah, whatever you say, dude, it's like, because I love you, dude. Like, I love you so much, dude. It's like, oh my god. I would be just like, I think to me, I would kind of just pull away from people. I think I'm more like that. I just kind of pull away from people. Just like, like even when I feel like people want to be friends with me and they don't really see me, like I can start talking about something I find interesting and they just kind of zone out or whatever. but they're all about what they're interested in. And then that's choice to me is like, why do you want to be friends with me? We don't have anything in common. Like, I see things on a different level than other people apparently even acknowledge exist. Like, it starts feeling, what do you want to be friends with me for? And then you start getting into the energetic stuff, and then you start seeing, oh, because I feel good about myself, so of course, like moth moves towards the light. So if you feel good about yourself, then you're going to pull in a lot of energy of other people who maybe don't feel so good about themselves, and they need to pull towards somebody else's light so they can feel better. But to me, I always see the emptiness of these relationships. Like, it's not fulfilling. To me, a relationship's about you being able to be your authentic self, and there being somebody there who, can acknowledge you, not try and change you, and love and appreciate you, but also that there's so many aspects, of being single. It's so funny too, because back when I used to be a relationship junkie, and I was relationship after relationship, and there's always one better. There had to be another one better. And I was just like, every friggin' guy I met wanted to just be a couple with me. So it was just like go from one after another, and it is like a drug. And so, I would have people say, you need to take a break. You need to, self-evaluate. You just go from one shitty relationship to another. And then when, all of this stuff happened in succession, like I said, everything, you start seeing how perfectly it's designed in your life to get you to where you are. Once you get past it, it's going through it. It's not that easy to see because it's very emotional. But when you get through it and you can look back, then I can see how all of that stuff led me to this point of having to re-identify myself and heal, and then I could see like what started happening on the planet and why, it happened for me first, or not just first. I mean, there's a lot of other people it happened for too. Like, there's tons and tons of people who went through some serious traumas and like traumatic events leading up, and some were, near death experiences, like coming close to death, and everybody had their own. And so there was a huge group of us that went through a lot to get us to this point, all at the same time, is when it's going to happen, globally, because it is all about the energy. Is it the light, and is it us pulling energetically to help people? Is it that to just be in the physical and to help people get guidance? Especially it's about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, because everything is your own. It's your own obstacles you got to get through. But it's just, remember, it's the resilience. It's just remembering you got to get through this, that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because it's always when you get that hopeless, helpless, which they've been selling us for so long, because that's part of selling their drugs. But the hopeless, helpless is so hard to get out of. And it just keeps you trapped. I feel like I'm just totally all over the place. I know I am. Just skipping around all over. I even wrote stuff this morning. I was like, okay, I'm going to start talking about stuff, and then I'm going to forget. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write some of this stuff. Oh, because when I was talking about I'm just sitting here crocheting like some sort of fiend. I do have that kind of, that lives inside of me. And sometimes it's dormant and sometimes it's not dormant. But I do have a little devil inside me that just gets going and can't stop. It's like a little, it reminds me of the shoemakers in the story. In the shoemaker, he would go to bed, I think it was, and then the little trolls or little elves or something would come out and, make all those shoes like a little fiend. That's what I feel like. I've got that little fiend inside of me that'll come out, and I'll just get going. Like, I just can't stop. Go from the time I get up until the time I go to bed. Except my body's like doesn't agree with that. Like, so it becomes like a little battle of the physical. And I'm aware of having to stay in balance and stuff, and communication with my own body, and the communication was another thing I want to talk about. This communication, it's all around us. But in the when I was going to talk about the being like a fiend with the crocheting, the hats, and all the stuff I'm making, then I was thinking about, it's so crazy because I'm sitting there all day long. I used to go to work, and then, you get paid, sometimes several $100s for a day's work. Especially when I was doing the traveling nursing or tattooing, you make a lot of money in one day. And, but otherwise still, you make a couple $100s a day usually, if you have a pretty decent job. Not to say something that, some people only make 100 a week or whatever, but just know you can work yourself up too, making that much in a day. It's all about skills. And now our skills set, that's going to be changing too, and having a lot more personal skills, not like what can I go out and do for this industry or corporation, but what can I do for myself? Like, I feel like I'm fortunate. I can paint, I can crochet, I can knit, I can sew. Like, I have a lot of skills that other people don't have, that I can cut hair. I was a hairdresser. I can still do medical treatment. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that I could do to have services to help other people. And I think that's what we need to be a lot more focused on, is our own personal skills that we can develop. And that was something they took out of the education system. But anyways, so while I'm sitting there and I'm doing this all day long, and I'm thinking it's so crazy because I used to, make so much money during the day, and here I am spending all day long making one hat. And, if I were to put the monetary value of what I would have been being paid, that hat would be several $100s, which you could never go out and charge somebody that much. I mean, I've seen where people have sold hats that they've sat and made for like $10, and, but still, I mean, if it came down to it, when the Jubilee happens and they can't do inflation anymore, because inflation is created by them in the banking system. So when that, when the Jubilee happens, the value of money is going to be much different. That's why the value of houses is going to go way down. We already have people working on hover cars, so cars and roads and all that kind of stuff is going to kind of become obsolete. We're going to be much more about, there's going to be free energy. They're going to start releasing about the Tesla energy and all of that. And it's all about the magnetism. It's using the energy that's there, that's around us, that carries consciousness. It's all around us all the time. And that's what I'm constantly trying to say. It's around us, and it's communicating with us. And we are a part of it. And we can understand the communication. And it is hard to translate sometimes. Like, you get messages like farfegnugen, and you're like, what are you trying to tell me? I don't know yet. But when you're in communication with them all the time, like me, I'm always listening to them. I'm talk to them much more. Oh, but I was talking about the relationship thing too, because it is so much about, once I did start being alone and focusing on myself and not using relationships to try and feed my emptiness or feed my need for, I don't know, love, admiration. I mean, it comes in all different packages, right? It's kind of like what you need at the time. You'll find it. And that is what manifesting is, and that's why it's so important. I mean, people are just so caught up in like, oh, manifesting, that means you just go and you keep thinking, oh, I'm going to get $1 million, I'm going to get $1 million, I'm going to get $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, money tree. And then it's like, it's not. Yeah, maybe you need affirmations to remind yourself that you have value and you can have whatever you want, but it's not about that. That's not how manifesting works. It's more of a lifestyle. It's more about you look at life. It's more about you look at yourself. It's more about how you approach living. But people, I think, we'll see how things play out. I mean, pretty much right now, all of this stuff in development And some of us who understand some of the things is, we'll see. When more people understand it and we start seeing more about how some of this stuff works, then we'll see. I mean, the things that they tell me and stuff, I trust it. And then I think it is by our understanding. It is completely by our own frequency of how we understand everything. And that is why everything seems like different realities, because it really is just consciousness understanding life. It's at its own ability to understand. That's why words are such manipulation, because now you start noticing that you're having conversations with people, and when you have awareness, you start seeing like there's a communication gap, and it has nothing to do with the words. It has to do with the understanding of the message behind the words. And one of the things too is like I've always done this, but because I've always had the awareness of the consciousness that was around us, I was always communicating with it, and that was by telepathy. So I've always used telepathy to communicate with people, and people don't know that you're doing it, but you will hear people say stuff that you were telling them. You send people messages to call you and stuff. Like it's trippy, but it really does work. And I was thinking it is kind of like a projection, because I was thinking, I bet you there's a lot of people who don't understand like how telepathy works, and each person is going to have a different way of understanding. Just like I said, it's your ability to understand what you can understand at your frequency, at wherever your consciousness is. It has nothing to do with all of this other stuff that they try and tell us. It has to do with what you can understand is where you vibrate, what your frequency is. And there's no shame, there's no like, there's lower and there's higher, but I just think that people in this world, it's so much about good and bad, evil, good and evil, bad and good. Everything has to be so, like they can't figure things out without there being the two poles and of measurement. But everything is just a spectrum, and it's the spectrum of your understanding of where you vibrate. And there is no bad or good or higher soul or whatever. It's just a vibration. It's just music. Like you couldn't pick a symphony apart and say, oh, that part's bad and that part's good. It is all together. It's what makes up what it is. So we need all of it to create all of life. So, see, I start talking, like, I could even go even weirder. Like, because I don't know. I see things very differently in my head. But anyways, when you want to do telepathy, when you want to talk to somebody, to me, it feels like I'm projecting. Like I'm inside of myself, and I'm projecting, almost like my soul is kind of hollering out, hey, over there, like it's projecting its voice, and it's putting it out there. And one thing too is there's somebody who I have telepathy with, but we don't have communication, but I can see certain things that happen, like it's very trippy, and I'm so curious, like, to learn more about it, because it is it's very fascinating, because there is such a connection that we have, and the more that we explore it and understand it. But to me, I feel like I'm projecting my voice without speaking, but I'm real used to talking in my head. So see, I don't know if everybody can understand even the talking in their head, because my daughter is always like, I don't need to talk to a bunch of people. I talk to my higher self. That's who I'm in communication with. And I'm like, oh, well, mine's different than that. Very different than that. I've got all sorts of talking and stuff going on in communication. Like, to me, it is the consciousness of the universe. It's what you would consider Christ consciousness or whatever. It's the consciousness that is around us, that we're a part of. Our consciousness is a part of that consciousness. But our consciousness has the ability to break it down and go in and have an experience. So to me, it is, it's this acknowledgement or something of being a part of something bigger. But I don't know, because I don't understand. I mean, we all have an understanding of where we understand things, and I don't understand some things of other people's way that they communicate. Or like I said, like I had no idea until recently that everybody didn't have people talking to them all the time. I thought everybody did, and that's why I couldn't understand. I was like, I don't understand, why would we need police and stuff? Like, you know what's right and wrong. Like, why do you need it? Like, you got that in your... So it has been one thing for me is to see, like, not everybody has it. That has blown my mind. And then I started thinking, like, how do other people live? Like, what is their existence like? And like, they go into a room, and what is their perception? Like, are they only thinking, what is this person thinking of me? What is that person thinking of me? Are they thinking, oh, I like this or I like that? Or are they only thinking of them? Like, it's so weird when you really start thinking of, like, how we all go out into the world. It's very, very different. And like I said, like, 2020 was very eye-opening to a lot of things. And you know what I thought about with 2021? Because 2021, it started feeling like something was off with time. Which, that's coming from somebody who lost all track of time when I got my brain injury. I could no longer tell if it had been 5 minutes or it had been 6 hours. Like, I couldn't tell at all. And then so there was so many shifts that had to occur for me when I got the brain injury thing. The music's stopping. Right, I'll tell it to keep going. And so when I got that, I had already lost track of time. But this year, over 2021, especially over when it started getting close to daylight savings time, I really started noticing, like, something weird with the time. Like, the day is just flying by. Like, I would get up and it would be like, oh my gosh, it's already time to go to bed. And then all of a sudden, this weird thing with the lights, like, you can see still how dark it is. And it's 8:15. And it's totally that dark. It's like totally blackout. But I started noticing, like, something's weird with the time. And, like, lately I keep saying, like, it feels like nighttime is like 20 hours long. It feels so long. But then you never feel like you really get rested. But I feel like I'm always out of my body anyways. I don't feel like I'm really in my body when I'm sleeping. So I feel like I'm always busy doing stuff. But anyways, so I started noticing that there was something weird about the time. And when I got... yesterday I was talking to my daughter about something, and I said that, and I said 2021 was like when we lost time. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, she couldn't understand what I was talking about. But to me, it is like when because 2012 was when they said the Mayan calendar was going to end and everything was going to end, right? But then if you go to the end of time, the time of this time, like this age, the end of this time, right? And which measures time, because time is used for enslavement, because there is no time, but they create time in this sense so that we can, be their slaves. So then when you, so this year, when there started being so many people who weren't working, time started shifting, right? Then there started being, so many more people home, and then they started doing this stuff, manipulating with the sky and the sun and everything. It was like time became lost or something. Like, it became like the end of time. Like, time became over. And then when you turn 2021, and you flip, that's 20, that would be 2012. Well, maybe it would be like 2, whatever. But if you just did the 12 and the 2. So, because there's always this stuff about this backward thing. Like there's something about and like I said, how it seemed like the sky is inverted lately. And I think we're in that flip over, but everything, there has been, like we've been in the upside down this whole time. And now it's flipping back over. But even with time, there's been something with the release of time or the shift of time, and I could feel it. Like something shifted with time. But I just thought, oh, that's so weird. So 2020 would have been like the new view, the new perspective, getting a clear vision of life. 2021 was losing time to lose its grip on people's minds, you know. And you know what, I get so much more into the idea of destiny and fate and how things just work out in divine timing, because it is how things are supposed to work out, will be how they work out. You can't force things to change. You can't make things be different. And that's like why these people, they're like, well, I'm just manifesting this and manifesting that. Really, you're just frustrating yourself until your manifestation comes. And your manifestation comes from knowing what is your inner desires, knowing what is your inner calling, and having an awareness of that, but an acceptance that it will come when it's supposed to come, and that everything that happens in between is for you to grow, to prepare you for what's to come. But people just come in it differently, like they can control life and control things. And I think that's why life is just throwing everything up right now for everybody, so they can see, like, no, you don't have control, just like I had to see. I thought I had everything in control. I thought I had it all under control. And then life was like, hell no. You don't got control here, girl. You have no control. Like, we're going to turn your life upside down, and then we're going to watch you have to friggin' swim, run a marathon, and get yourself out of it. And it is, then you see, like, fuck, I'm a champion. I'm a goddamn Olympian. Like the Olympians, the gods, because you have to, what you have to endure to, oh my gosh, see, sometimes things just, all of a sudden make sense in my head, like where that even would have come from, the gods, because the gods, when they came down, were teaching people about spiritual enlightenment, about the connection, and, you know, they ended up getting super manipulated here, and getting their consciousness to be trapped and enslaved, and breaking free from that, you go into that more godlike way of being, like the Olympian, the gods, and going through that endurance test to enlightenment. And I'm not saying I'm already there. It's a road. It's a challenging road that you are on as long as you're ever alive, I think. And but when you get to certain parts, you definitely feel like a fucking gold. Like I won the gold. I feel like it's not silver or bronze. I feel it is, because it's all about how you feel inside. It's like you go from feeling lost and empty into feeling complete and good and connected. And yeah, you feel like you feel like a winner, and you feel like you release so much of the burdens that you carry, and you feel light. And it does make you feel godlike. It does make you feel like, you know, I have information to share, and anybody can do this. It's a process, but anybody can do it. It's there for us all to do. So, anyways, I just saw it's like over 33. I'm gonna look at my thing real quick and see if there was something else. Don't just turn it off and go like, son of a bitch. I should have said that. Why didn't I? I don't even know what that means. So I've got so many journals of, like, I think it's called automatic writing, where you just like start writing whatever comes in. And sometimes, like, it's something that you have to also develop, because sometimes when you're doing it, you'll start questioning what they're saying. You'll be like writing, and you'll start trying to finish the sentences for them and stuff, and then they will be like, no, it's this, no, it's that. I think this has been crooked the whole time. My eyes are so fucked right now. They're so fucked. But I just feel so sure The med beds are just, they're so close. The Jubilee is so close. Everything is so close. And then, you know, it's not going to be just like magic. It's still going to be a lot of rebuilding, but there's a lot of people who still have to see. A lot of people who still haven't, or they're just this slow awakening, you know, super slow. Because I'm seeing it on certain aspects, just not on all aspects. But I'm seeing a definite, it is a consciousness, and I know I've talked about this, it's like a development, and it's a development. It's a conscious awareness development. It's a developing it. It's a slow process. But I'm seeing it. It is happening. And just, you know, it is an endurance test. It is just keeping your eye on the prize, knowing that, you know, that there is going to be something really great that's coming from all of this. And there will be balance again. And this inversion of this world we're living in, it's flipping. It's a slow flip. But there will be some abrupt changes that will occur at some point. And then there's going to be a lot of people looking for, you know, somebody to make sense of everything. So, anyways, have a great day. It's Christmas, so Merry Christmas. And, you know, hopefully you got yourself a good farfegnugen. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.